Well, hello YouTube. Looks like we got some cleaned up carburetor parts here, so it's going to be time to throw this Quadrajet back together and get everything ready to go. Before we do that, we're going to make a couple repairs to this carburetor and another little, I won't necessarily call it a modification, just a little thing we can do on this. First thing we're going to do is we're going to mix up some JB Weld, and we're going to seal up these well plugs here on the bottom of the carburetor with JB Weld. Now this is just, these really don't leak that much anymore. I know some people will argue and say they do, but really they don't. More often than not, these carburetors run bad and flood because of a choke problem or a float problem. But we're just going to do this to show everybody how you do it if you want to. And at the same time, we're going to put this stray fuel pickup tube back in the air horn where it goes. Now, probably get away with just kind of knocking it in lightly, but I'm just going to go ahead and be on the safe side. I'm just going to put just a very little bit of JB Weld on here, just a very minute amount to help hold it in. It shouldn't ever come back out again. And then over here I have my air horn. Excuse me, this is my base plate, not the air horn. I'm just looking at the air horn. And got examining this air horn, and I noticed, I showed you before, this, if you look down the side of this, you see this throttle arm is kind of bent around a little bit, and I noticed that, and I really didn't pay a lot of attention to it at first until I started working this throttle back and forth. And if you'll notice, the secondary butterflies are not opening up at all. There's nothing blocking them over here. I took that piece of linkage off, but it's absolutely not doing anything. So what's happened is, right here, you see this piece of metal that's bent over like this. It's almost like straight up. It's supposed to be bent over at a 90-degree angle, and it's supposed to contact this, and that's what opens these secondaries up. And you may also remember that piece of linkage that was connected to the rear vacuum brake. It was bent all around like a pretzel. I may have it here, I think. This one is how it's bent. Well, this is the right piece, and what's happened is somebody has bent that to keep the flaps from opening up. And it didn't occur to me at first what was going on until I thought about this with this fuel pickup tube being out. You know, it was laying down in the, showed you it was laying down in the carburetor. Well, when that happens, like I said, that's your fuel supply to your back barrels. You got one here for this side and one supposed to be there for this side. And quite obviously what happened was, when this thing fell out, this was in a, let me just tell you, this was in a big, like a church van type of one of those big 15-passenger or whatever they are, 15-passenger Dodge vans, like a B350. And I've driven plenty of those before, and you know, when there are a lot of instances where you got to have your foot on the floor to take off and get going into traffic. So probably what was happening was, when they were trying to get on this thing, open it up, it was just stumbling and falling on its face and wouldn't go, you know. So their solution was to take and bend this out. They knew, I guess they knew enough about how this worked to do it, but they bent this thing out so it just disabled the secondary. It just turned this 4-barrel carburetor into a 2-barrel, so they could go ahead and just punch the throttle on down and get a kick down out of the transmission and all that stuff, and it wouldn't be stumbling and farting around and spitting and coughing and everything, trying to not get out of its own way. So in a way I can understand why they did that, but that was a lazy way of fixing it, you know, the real lazy way. They should have, you know, torn into this carburetor, and that was an easy fix, really. But you know, I'm not gonna be nice about it. I mean, we're down here in the South, and people hate these carburetors down here, and they don't, you know, unless they just work perfectly, they think they're the work of the devil, and they're not going to look in one, you know, because they've already convinced themselves there's no way to fix it, and they don't understand it, and they don't want to understand it. So get a screwdriver and a pair of pliers out, and that's how you fix it. Well, we're going to fix that. the right way. So I'm going to bend that back around and get this all adjusted where it's the right way and all that. So stay tuned.